You might want to change my name. I don't know how to do that.
I can do that for you.
I like calling you Josh, though.
Peggy did it this morning, but it didn't seem to stick.
You were live.
Okay. This is Senate Appropriations, and we're considering amendments to the budget bill. We have this morning, we had indicated that the bill language relative to the state paid deputies was going to be amended. We have an amendment that has been offered by Senator Sears that he will print forward. And we also have Senator White's amendment that has been provided to the committee. I think probably we will start with Senator White's amendment, and we'll discuss it. And then we will discuss the proposed replacement amendment that has been sent to the committee from Senator Sears.
Yeah, actually, I don't see that in the 848 amendment.
In the 10th instance?
Yeah, that's not my amendment.
That's not your, did you have a new version done by Damien?
I didn't. I did it myself.
Okay.
And I sent it to you last night.
Okay, sorry about that.
Let me resend it. Let me resend it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we'll have a resent version of what Senator Sears is proposing. And we will go to Senator White's amendment at this time. So Senator White, do you want to review your proposed amendment?
Sure. So let me just preface it by saying that all of us, including the sheriffs, are aware of issues surrounding the transport deputies. The sheriffs, some of the sheriffs, particularly Sheriff Anderson, Marcoux, and Boniac, have been putting their creative juices together to come up with solutions. The original proposal in the budget bill and what I saw of the proposed amendment seemed to preempt any solutions they were working on by saying that the solution would be to transfer them. This approach in this amendment will allow them to continue their work with the needed input of other important players. So what it does is sets up a committee, a task force or committee or whatever one chooses to call it, that consists of all the players that need to be involved and doesn't assume any solution that they will come up with, but I know that they have some solutions that they've been working on, and this would allow them to continue that work with the affected players.
Okay, so your committee would be 9 members, 2 of the side county judges, 2 sheriffs, the court administrator, chief superior judge, and 2 members of the Agency of Human Services because of the DCF and the mental health transport piece.
Yes.
And then executive director of the department, John Campbell, or his designee.
Yes.
Okay.
And that involves all the players that need to be there. And I would say that they could do, those players don't need a legislative solution to continue this conversation. But in light of what was in the budget bill and in what I saw as the proposed amendment, they do need this instead of coming to the conclusion that they will be transferred from state to county pay. So that's the reason for this proposal.
It was never the intent of my amendment to say that the county would have to pay for transport. The issue, and as Damien drafted the language, is that it says that the counties would be responsible for state paid deputies if they so choose to keep them. They would serve at the pleasure of the sheriff. The payment would come from the court through per diem payments. That was the intent. But I think with obviously the history of this is important to understand. In the 70s, the sheriffs lost their jails. And I think the state made up for some of that by creating these positions of state paid deputies for transports. And what we're seeing here now is, especially during the pandemic, and as more and more cases go virtual, is fewer and fewer transports. I realize that the many sheriffs who are very good people and do a great job, but there are some, and it's why the Auditor of Accounts is looking at the use of state paid deputies during the pandemic. But he also had 2 whistleblower complaints about the use of state paid deputies. In my opinion, and I don't want to insult anybody, but in my opinion, if you want a result of a study to be what the players in the study want, then you use the players that you've got in your list, because they're all people who are connected. The majority are connected either to the sheriffs or the county. The side judges, the sheriffs, the executive director of the association. But I'm willing to have a compromise here and strike the language that would end it on July 1, 2022, and have the study be done by the Justice Oversight Committee with information, using information from a 2018 study done regarding this issue, which recommended per diem, and the auditor's account, auditor of accounts report.
May I respond?
Yes, certainly.
So I think that by, I don't know how that amendment is drafted, but the way it was originally drafted, it assumed that it would transfer the per diems from the state to the county, that the state would pay for the only the transports, and that I think that it's necessary to be able to hear from the side judges about how counties do their budgeting. They are limited in what kinds of budgets they can pass by statute. And I just think that the assumption in the amendment is that in the proposed amendment by Senator Sears is that there would be the transfer. And
no, that's out of I would delete that section, but it was never the intent that the counties would pick up the cost of the transports. Never the intent. And I think people, with all due respect, I think there's some misreading by certain folks of the draft. I sent you a copy of Damien's statement.
I did see that. Thank you. I think there are other issues around here. I know that the sheriffs and the side judges are somewhat nervous about having judiciary contract and pay for it. I've heard, I know that, for example, in Chittenden County, the courts are 6 months in arrears paying for the court security. In Windham County, they were in arrears, judiciary was in arrears paying for the court security and did not, would not increase the amount. So the Windham County Sheriff withdrew from their contract, and now it's a private security firm, which is costing more than it cost the sheriffs before. And in Franklin and Orange County, I believe right now, the court judiciary is about 2 months in arrears paying for their transport people. So they do have some concerns about this and would prefer to have to work on the solutions that they've been working on. And I know that they have some proposed solutions that they are close to being able to implement, but this would preempt any of those solutions, because they would not be continuing.
Senator, with all due respect, you're not listening to me. I'm saying that I'm offering as a counter amendment to delete the sections
Mhm.
that would go to a per diem and only have a study by the Joint Legislative Justice Oversight Committee, County Sheriff's Transport Deputies Transition Study Report that would be due by November 15th, 2021. As you said, there's nothing to prevent those groups of sheriffs from looking at. Part of the language is the committee shall identify any potential challenges or adverse consequences related to the transition and any legislative changes necessary to facilitate the transition and mitigate the potential challenges of adverse consequences identified. It would hear from all sides. It would be an opportunity for the legislature to be involved in the decision about what to go through. And frankly, your study would have a predetermined result.
I thank you very much, and I appreciate your willingness to compromise here. I do believe that this amendment also has a predetermined result, because it says study any measures related to the transition. So it has a predetermined outcome. But with that, I will let you do what you need to do.
Okay, so what we have is perhaps there's we can have more discussion about both amendments, the extent to which it seems to me there's been so this would put it into the Justice Oversight Committee. I'm just wondering, we have a different approach, and that is the Legislative Oversight Committee would be managing this process. And I think probably the term examine the process for converting, but I think so maybe that is maybe what is being interpreted as a
Yes.
sort of like a that the conclusion is foregone when you're saying convert. And I think where we really want to make it clear is that the landscape is changed. We've got multiple reimbursement rates. I'm not sure, and be paid for by the courts. The other alternative has been whether this in fact should be done by human services because of the other populations and some kind of synthesizing of the various contracts that are coming from the state out to these sheriff's offices. So I've raised that as some of the feedback in terms of this is saying we would give it to the courts. There are some people that would say the system may be subject to change. Per diems may be more flexible and responsive to the work, the transport demands, but would the courts be the right administering entity for this particular service? I'm just trying to distill issues that people might have. The first is, do you want a study committee, or do we want to say this is a legislative initiative that we need to examine the current system of state paid deputies and the extent to which it needs to be re-engineered to respond to the transportation needs of today, and the administrative and management and financing oversight where that should be lodged.
I'm fine with that.
What, Dick, is that?
I'm fine with that. I mean, obviously A does presume that you would change. So you want to put language in what you just said.
I'm not sure I could say it again, but it's on tape. Is
Yeah.
Damien listening, Stephanie?
I don't know if Damien's listening, but you're talking about examining the current system of transports, including
Right, and should there be a
prisoners or
change?
people
I
in
think
custody of state.
the general theme from Senator Kitchell was, should there be a change in the way we currently provide prisoner order?
Well, and I would make it even more than prisoner. I would
Yes.
think the way in which the state is administering and it's scattered right now in some regards. And as Senator Sears has pointed out, the reimbursement rates are different depending on BGS or, DCF
Even
or.
DCF and.
Why does that matter? Why does it matter that they're different?
Why shouldn't they all be the same?
I think that's a question, Alice. I don't have a prescribed answer. I'm just saying, it seems to me that if we're getting into this whole examination of how we, the state of Vermont, finances and manages the transport of Vermonters, whether it's for, I don't know.
Mental health, DCF and corrections are.
So I don't know if we could get another rewrite. Damien, I wish we had arranged to have him here.
I didn't think to have him in, but I'll CC him on this in a moment. So,
But I think what we were saying is, this is a discussion. We've had a study report. We've had other information. The landscape has changed. What was an area of opposition about video arraignment, I think, has been totally redone because of the COVID experience. We're in a very different place, and we need to examine that system and the options around how to make it either more flexible, more the locus of that there's better clarity around who is managing the costs, et cetera, and where that responsibility should reside within state government. And should it be Agency of Human Services? I think that's part of that analysis, to think about what that gets us and what the problems are with it. So it was to keep it open, that we're not prejudging any final answer, but we as a legislature, we've had a lot of discussion around the cost of per diems and on top of the state paid deputies. And it seems like, and we've got the study from 2018, it's something that needs to be brought to closure. So I would suggest that if we as a legislature want to do that, then we lodge that leadership and accountability with ourselves and to examine it.
I'd support that. I mean, it's our issue, and we're the
So,
ones that are gonna have.
It's costing us over $2 million a year,
Yeah, well, it's not an
just for this
inconsequential.
group, and not counting the transport for DCF and mental health.
And, we haven't looked at it in the aggregate. And so that's maybe this is a way of dealing with the concerns that Senator White has raised about a predetermination of that action, but to have a more comprehensive and look and make it the responsibility of the legislature. I don't know who's on justice oversight. Are you on justice oversight, Senator White?
No.
No, but Senator Baruth is, Senator Sears is, Senator Benning, I guess, is. No, is he on?
I
No,
don't know. I don't think so.
Oh,
Senator Hooker.
okay.
in a moment, you should get a redraft of sub A. It's titled number 3. It still says Sears. And we can, if the concepts in sub A are what you want, we can have Damien sort of.
So,
What we could do is pull it out and vote it separately.
Yeah.
If we don't have it ready, I don't know. I'm really concerned about our time here. But all right, here's the rewrite. Who did this? Stephanie?
I just did this on your conversation right now, and I'll have Damien take a,
Well, this says shall examine the process for converting full-time deputies.
it's it has number 3 on the top. It's another one that should come in a
Yeah,
moment.
no, this is a complete, it just came.
Oh, sorry.
It does, I think it does what you were just saying, Senator.
Okay.
So just,
Richie's wanting to say something.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rich. I was
I just
reading and
want- I just wanted to read, so it's Senator Sears, it's Senator Baruth, it's Senator Lyons, it says Senator Parent, Senator Hooker, Representative Emmons, Representative Grad, Representative Shaw, Representative Squirrel, and Representative Wood.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Just so you had that.
Thank you.
What are,
and certainly they deal with the child welfare justice oversight
Yep.
population. And I think you would also for mental health policies as well. Okay.
what are you trying to read, Jane? Can we see
I
it?
am reading number 3 that just came out from Chrissy, and it reads, the Joint Legislative Justice Oversight Committee shall examine and make plural recommendations on the current system of transports of prisoners and other persons in the custody of the state, which includes deputy sheriffs who are currently paid by the state, blah, 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 and contracts
That state agencies have with sheriffs.
Yeah. The committee shall identify any potential challenges. I think we should say, we shall identify the benefits and the adverse consequences
Okay,
of any proposals to change the system, because nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
And you have to weigh out what you get and what the drawbacks are. So I would like to put in benefits and then on it before November 15th, they shall submit a report to Appropriations Judiciary, which is misspelled. I know Senator Sears gets his typing is not the greatest, and Government Operations for findings and recommendations for future legislative action. And then it says, and the use of, and don't we want to reference that earlier report of 2018?
Yeah, we should probably reference 2018.
Okay.
so we'll put that up in sub A as part of the,
Or C, shall review the reports and
Oh,
and the 2018.
okay, and we'll
I
just
would
add,
put it
okay,
in.
so comma and the report.
All right, Senator
from-
White, do you think that that would address the concerns? Obviously, the very people that you have identified would be involved in this examination, and that it really is putting the burden on the justice oversight to examine the issue, take the testimony, look at the options, do a structured analysis of the advantages, disadvantages of each, and make recommendations for legislative change.
Thank you. I think that the group that I had originally put into the task force will, I know, continue to work on this issue on their own outside of the Justice Reinvestment or the Justice Oversight Committee. And I'm sure we'll come with recommendations to them for changes.
Okay,
The actual name of the 2018 study is the Inmate Transportation Study Report,
okay,
November 1, 2018.
okay. Now we've done a sort of a down memory lane on that one. Okay, so I realize we now have 4 members of Senate Judiciary here.
Right.
Yeah, you want to vote out a bill?
Um,
I just got some stuff on S25. Do you want to put that in there?
So
Okay, thank you.
we'll take what we've pulled together here based on the concerns that, which I think we're agreeing. We don't want to necessarily preclude any of the options or not fully understand the collateral impacts. And that we are, as a legislature, saying this is something we have to provide the leadership, because it's just been something that's been out there unresolved, and now is the time to move. So I
Thank you.
appreciate your coming in, Senator White, this morning, and your the concerns that you raised, because I think what we have now is does reflect the issues and the concerns that were important to you.
Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. All right, so now we have an amendment. Stephanie, you'll send that to Damien to get in.
I just did, and to Chrissy, and when we go through the set of amendments one last time, this will be the replacement for what's in the 10th.
Because we're running out of time if we're on the floor at 11:30.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So we have an amendment and Senator Pearson is here. Okay,
Yes, good morning.
good morning, Senator Pearson.
I can be real quick if you'd like.
Yeah, we have your amendment and you would like to strike the words to accompany structural reforms that are part of. And and we did discuss your the issue you raised to me in your memo. And and we, as I indicated in my response last night to you, was our conclusion was that we wanted to keep that language. But why don't you present the amendment and let us consider it again and either change or affirm.
So absolutely, and I don't mean to badger you on this. As I understood it, you wanted to keep the language that talked about the 150 million being held there. And I have certainly no objection. I think that makes sense. My concern was the language has a bit of a prejudgment in terms of the final answer of the task force we're setting up when it references structural reform. And so what I'm trying to do is see if we can find a way to say, you know, we've got this money held aside to respond to the work of the task force. But saying structural reforms, you know, we're likely to get there, right? We all understand that. But given the process that our retirees and teachers and state workers have gone through this year, which has been not as gentle as I would like to see that for such an intense issue, I'd rather not have us reference structural reforms as we set this aside. So it's just simply my attempt to honor what you're saying of making it clear the purpose of that money, but trying not to have it sound like we're prejudging any final answer from the task force work group. So I'm very open to different ways to accomplish that. This was my latest attempt that Stephanie edited slightly to get there. And I can read it if you want. You tell me.
No, I think it just strikes the word to accompany the structural reforms that are part of, and that language that we had in the big bill C-101, which we looked at yesterday.
Sub B. Yes.
Committee, do you have? I'll go back to yesterday's conversation that we had about this language, which was very deliberate on our part to say, because there was some discussion about the administration had no reserve at all, and the money and linking it to the work. And if there are no changes, then from what we were talking about last night, then we would revisit the use of the reserve and how it would go out. Would it go to OPEB? Would it go to pensions? Would it go to something entirely different, depending on what happened with the pension reform? So it wasn't assuming any particular recommendation, although one would think that the work group was created not to simply say we love the status quo, or that there isn't a need to make changes. So committee, do you? So our thought was we're reserving it with these conditions. If that doesn't happen, then we will go back and look at the release of the money for this purpose or any other purpose at that time. Committee, do you want to weigh in, Senator Baruth or Senator Nitka, Senator Ballant?
I guess I'm wondering, in taking that out, is the money less protected, would be my thought of trying to look at it.
No.
No, okay.
Well, I don't know. It's reserve. You may be right on that, Alice. Actually, you might be right in terms of.
Do you all have the language as it would end up in front of you?
Yes.
Because you know, clearly keeps it reserved, shall be made available for appropriation to this long-term legislative initiative to make Vermont pensions and
Yeah.
OPEB plans more sustainable. I mean, I'm not seeing how that's looser.
Well, are we talking about it to accompany the recommendations? Do you think
Yes.
that's a more
Yeah.
neutral term than a structural reform?
Yes.
Okay, Senator Baruth, you're our wordsmith here.
You're muted, Phil.
We went over this a little bit last night, and I'll suggest it again. I'm wondering, Senator Pearson, if structural is the root of your discontent with the language, and if we eliminated the word structural but kept reforms, which is a more general sense of what the committee might come up with, would that work better?
Yeah, or accompany any reforms that are part. Yeah, something like that. I think that makes sense. I mean, a structural reform to me sounds like a decrease in benefits or a change in benefits, whereas there are many levers, as we know.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, I would
Yes.
be comfortable with eliminating structural and going with reforms or some version of that.
So what we would do is, because the reforms could take a variety of ways, it could be structural, they could be, I don't know, I guess doesn't change the structure to say, well, somebody's going to have to pay more, while that cost sharing has got to be adjusted. If we just struck the word to accompany the reforms that are part of that work group.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, because I think it should imply that there will be reforms. So saying any reforms would suggest that we might wind up with no reforms. So I think just getting rid of structural maybe would be the way to go.
So we would just say to accompany the reforms that are part of the long-term initiative.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
It
Madam
makes it more neutral. Okay.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, I apologize. I have to go meet with Secretary Bloomer to get ready for the floor, but I like direction.
This isn't the first thing up, is it? On the floor?
No.
Okay. I'm going to suggest then any of us that can stay for a few minutes. Thank you, Becca, and thank you, Chris, for coming in. You got my responses on the other.
Yes, thank you very much. You sent me hunting elsewhere, and I will follow up there. Will this become part of a committee amendment, or do you want me to alter?
So it'll simply be an amendment to strike the word structural in the slate of amendments from
Yeah.
Senator.
We'll take care of it in our omnibus amendment package.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, committee. Anything else that we haven't done? We're going to have to run through the final version of what I'm about to put out on the floor.
So there are two amendments. Chris, you can put them up on screen from Senate Natural Resources that we would incorporate in.
And
then
there's also the other one to add in the other DFR piece.
The other DFR piece, and then the specialized transportation for children.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay.
That we put in, and the DFR piece we put in because we had a lot of back and forth this morning on. The natural resources ones are the ones that aren't in the slate yet that we have to get in. If we put those up and just quickly look at them.
Yep. Okay.
Just bear with me. I'm pulling them right up.
All right. And this is the Natural Resources Committee. They took testimony from Senator Perchlik, and what we have here is the recommended amendment that has come from Natural Resources. That's in that section. That was the section that Senator Nitka was questioned about. And let's see, where is it?
So we have two. We have one in, Chrissy, why don't you put up the sheet I sent you that just has the two in it, not in the whole document yet?
Okay, can you tell me what time you sent that? I'm sorry.
I sent it, sorry. Here, make me host and I'll put it up.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Stephanie.
Okay.
Oops. you should be all set.
Okay. This one.
This has been quite a week.
Busy.
Yes.
So can
All right.
folks see this? In the subdivision where we have the 9 million going to
VHFA.
yeah, VHFA. No, I put it in the wrong spot. It needs to be, I'm sorry. I did this too quickly. It needs to be in the 9 million, that's number 2. What's important is the yellow. It'll be added to the 9 million that's going to VHFA. Number 2, not number 6. That was a different 9 million. I just grabbed the wrong 9 million. But what would be added is in the yellow to the 9 million to VHFA.
Okay. And so this is to issue a report to us detailing the programs for which the funds were appropriated and include the results of investigations into on-bill to the meter billing and other methods to provide weatherization financing methods.
I think it just,
You've got
method,
two-
I think it can
methods
just
there.
be finance and
Financing.
Financing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the request, and this is the language that Natural Resources is recommending to us. Senator Westman, I know you've been involved in that. Is that?
And we were unanimous in this, and Senator Perchlik said he would withdraw his amendment with if we added this.
Okay. All right. So committee, are we comfortable adding this?
I just
Yes.
want, Alice wants to ask a question.
Yeah, Alice, go ahead.
Thereafter, upon request from a legislative committee, are there any limitations on that? I mean, could they ask for one monthly? You know, there's no, they could be requesting them constantly.
And they could even without the language.
Well, would they have to give it if it wasn't in the
It
language?
was, the truth is, our intention was to have Maura, the head of VHFA, into our committee in January to figure out where they were. This just puts us in the position. We expect to report in January.
And this is session law and this is one-time funding. So I don't think it's going to be too big a burden.
And they were, VHFA was fine with this language.
Okay, so I really hate to move the committee along, but we are, we've got to get, so I think we're in agreement. We will add that in the right section. And then the next is the 1.5.
that was going out to CAP agencies.
Mhm.
And it was going to have a statewide coordinator in OEO, but OEO doesn't feel like they have the bandwidth right now to bring on a new position and have a statewide coordinator. And so the idea here is that you would actually have a statewide coordinator out at one lead CAP agency. There's one CAP
Okay.
agency that's volunteered apparently to have that. And so
Okay.
it just restates where the statewide coordinator would be.
Okay, is that acceptable to the committee to move it to?
Yes.
All right, okay. So in other words, the grants are going out to the CAP agencies and they will have a coordinator to do for their work that's being done statewide with the different 5 agencies. All right, moving right along on that. Now we have the language on the transportation, the DCF Transportation.
Let me find that. That's the childcare. I'm going to stop sharing screen. Hold on a second.
I think you'd sent it out.
I just want to stop share. There it is. I just had to find that button. Sorry. And I just want to find it in the slate of amendments to transportation.
I can tell you what it is.
No,
If you trust me.
I just want to tell you what amendment it is on the, if you go back to the document that Chrissy sent out, that was the Word document. on the,
Which section is it?
that's what I'm finding quickly for you. It is in the document from Chrissy earlier, it's the 16th Amendment. It's section 318.1. And I'll put this one up on the screen too, I think, if you want to do that. Share screen.
Yep.
Is that up?
Well, I'm up to the 15th, 16th. A Department of Specialized Childcare Transportation shall submit a written report to House committees. Yeah, okay. On appropriations and on human services. And the Senate committees on appropriation, health and welfare, outlining the outcome, identify the children, average number of children served. Okay, keep going. And this is what
This
has
came
been-
from this came from DCF itself.
Has this been reviewed by health and welfare?
I only was able to send it to Senator Hardy.
Okay, but all right, but she got it then?
She got it. She the email back from her is great. This is very helpful, and it seemed positive. That's as far as I was able to get.
All right. All right. There was concern about how they would evaluate no reduction in services.
Yep. I will tell you that the RFP for this, the companies that are, or whoever is going to bid will be in today. So we will know by the first of the week whether there are multiple bidders and what they're asking for. And I do have a copy of what they sent out for an RFP, and it's quite detailed.
All right, so I'm going to suggest we go with this. This is different language than the House. I'm sure that there'll be an opportunity to fine tune it in the conference committee if there's something missing or needs to be added. But as long as Senator Hardy has seen it and she did respond, I'm going to suggest that we stay with the language as it's proposed.
And then the last one was the DFR 304B.
340B, you got it.
340B.
340B.
Yeah. Drug pricing program.
And this has been reviewed, I gather, came from Health and Welfare, and it's been reviewed and it's acceptable to DFR. And a number of states are looking at this whole 340B drug pricing. Okay, and the 15th is what?
We talked about last night. This was in the response to Senator Pearson's E911 program.
Yeah.
We talked about adding recommendations regarding the structure of governance of the E911 program along with the funding.
Yeah, okay. That's just adding what we talked about last night.
And so the other amendment that would be, do you want to try and go through this, or do you want to give us a moment to try and get them all in to go through them at once?
I think we should go through, give you a moment to put them all through at once.
Okay.
And,
if you wanted to go to the floor, and then if the floor is going to take a break at lunchtime, is that, or are you guys going right through? Or
I don't know. Okay. Stephanie.
Okay.
We don't usually take a break.
Okay.
So, Jane, are you responding? Are you speaking about all of these amendments or?
Yes, I am. I'll just get up and go through them all.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank God.
So
What?
Thank you for doing that.
It's just easier than bobbing around. I think
Oh,
most of them.
absolutely.
And
And,
if people feel that they want to participate or don't want me to
No,
represent the committee, I'm more than willing
We're
to.
happy to have you do it.
no, we're happy.
Well, you do a good job too, so.
Okay, All right, so I thought I would just do it on behalf of the committee. Obviously, it's. So Stephanie, I don't know what's on the floor right now. Anybody looked at the calendar? What's coming up right now?
It was second readings of a couple
Yeah.
of different bills.
Well, they did third reading, they have third readings on 4 and then starting second read, and we're at the end of third readings. So I would expect Becca would move that to later, and then second readings, there's 2, 4, 6 of those, so.
And they're not going to be simple second readings either.
No, so I guess we
No.
probably got time. What we could do is keep this Zoom link, and when Stephanie's ready, rather than our sitting here, we could go to the floor, and then if we got a text or an email, we could come back and do a final review of the amendment package.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, you don't mean that we would leave this up and running. We'd have to click out of this, right?
Yeah, well, I'll ask Chrissy how she thinks we could do it the easiest.
We could, when we go off live, or right out when we go off YouTube, you guys can hit the floor and I can keep this open. You could just come right back in here, or if you want, you could just click back on the link from this morning and get back in the room, but we'll keep the Zoom going so Stephanie and I can work on the amendment, but
Okay.
the committee can adjourn, go off Zoom.
Yeah, I think we can do it just the way we used to do it when we were on the floor. You just, Senator Kitchell announced that you want us to meet, and instead of going downstairs, we just click on a different link.
Except I can't get up and announce it, so I think we'll just have to leave like we would the floor, and we will send us a email or a text or something.
Perfect. Why don't I send you an email with the link again, so it's just easy for you guys to come right back in.
Yeah.
How about
That would be really good.
Everybody can go off of Zoom.
And when you send that link, if you could also send us the final version of our package,
Yeah.
so that everything is all together, because it's hard for us to go back and forth.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go off live right now, and then Chrissy and I will remain